Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I don't know whether you can see us physically through YouTube or the video that I have shared across socials, or you're just listening to this. So I'm going to try and make sure this comes alive in your eyes and your ears. And I'm very excited. So it's Penny Power here, very excited to be joined by Toby Freeman, who is the founder of a charity that I'm going to tell you all about. Now, you might be thinking, well, wait a minute, what is this going to be relevant to me? Of course it is, because Toby is also a leader, a business leader, and he wants to give lots of little nuggets, and we're going to share a story of how you build a business and what really matters in that business. So I think you'll enjoy it. I'm going to tell you more about the charity in a minute, but to begin with, I just want to create some context about why we run BIP Chat, which is what we call our podcast. So BIP stands for Business is Personal. We truly believe it is. So does Toby. So does anybody that joins our community, which is called BIP 100. And it's because, having been a business owner since I was 33, a few decades ago, a number of businesses that I've been very proud to lead, I do know that it always feels very personal. And I think in the digital age, the more personal, the more emotional that we can bring into our lives, it's very important. We are not robots yet. So we build a community of people who can have deep conversations, build deep relationships, discover how they can trust one another, and have that massive, deep sense of belonging to something, because after all, it can be quite lonely being a business owner. So imagine a little corporation of business owners all coming together, loving one another, having fun together, learning together, sharing peer-to-peer knowledge with one another. So that's it. And I like to run this podcast because I know how hard it is to find people and organizations that you can really trust and get behind. And if we bring this to you, it's just as important as bringing clients in front of you, because suppliers and organizations, knowing who you can trust, is really important. I would absolutely love it if at the end of this, you followed Toby Freeman, and I'm going to give you the Instagram following methodology, contacted him on LinkedIn, and maybe as an individual or organization, you thought, actually, this is a really important charity to support. Even a small amount of money is great, but that is not why Toby is on here. And he expressively says that. He's never trying to be a hungry charity guy trying to drill down the money. In fact, he's just been very successful in getting a fantastic lottery fund, which we're really excited to celebrate. So Toby is the founder and leader of the Robin Cancer Charity. Toby, I want you to introduce yourself, and can you please share really the origins of that and a little bit about yourself? And thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for the introduction. So Toby Freeman, founder and CEO of the Robin Cancer Trust, which takes its namesake from my brother, who unfortunately we lost over 12 years ago now to a rare form of testicular cancer. So Rob was very young, 24, prime of his life, living on his own, working, university, working out all the time, eating clean, eating healthily, didn't smoke or drink. But during this period of his life, he had a variety of symptoms. And unfortunately, he ignored those symptoms. And by the time the doctors found it, he had a stage 4 tumor in his chest, which obviously turned our entire family upside down. And I'm cutting a very, very long story short here, which could take up all the time if I told it properly. But I'm sure it's a story that resonates with a lot of people. Once you get that cancer diagnosis, life changes forever. And unfortunately, after 11 months of grueling treatment and watching my brother completely change into a completely different person, unfortunately, he lost his life. So we were left with a Rob-sized hole in our life. And as a young man of just 22, I wasn't working. I'd quit my job to spend time with my brother in his final months. And we decided that something good had to come of this. If Rob could ignore symptoms as a very health conscious, very healthy person, very young and active, then anyone could be. And that's where the idea of the Robin Cancer Trust was born. So it's obviously very, very personal to me. And I've been sort of, for want of a better word, driving it forwards, learning from all my mistakes, failing very fast, and trying to support as many other people through all the services that we provide. And the charity's gone through many highs and lows over those years, but we are here today as a small national charity that supports loads of families affected by germ cell cancer, which is testicular and ovarian cancers, giving out free cancer support packs, delivering educational talks in schools, universities, colleges, and businesses. So we deliver these value for free. We love to hit a CSR and wellbeing initiative up at the large corporations because it helps us achieve our goal, helps them with their goals as well. And yeah, just delivering loads of impact to our community, trying to listen to them, learn from them, provide these services so that we can support and help more people. We said many moons ago that if we help one family, it'd all be worth it. Thankfully, I can say we've helped many, many, many families since in Rob's name. And it's been a beautiful journey seeing it blossom from friends and family and all about Rob into a charity, an organization, a small business, for want of a better term, into something that's now just received national lottery funding to expand our service delivery across the UK. That's a lot of work and a lot of amazing team members to deliver that. I won't take any of the credit, but yeah, it's been a real joy to experience it all and still do something that I love after all these years.
Oh, Toby, it's incredible. And I'm sure anybody listening wants to send their love to you for the loss of Rob, and also to your, your extended family, because it's huge. And as Toby knows, and some people who know us well, we lost our niece, my sister's daughter, in her 20s to cancer. So I think I know this is going to be full of hope, this conversation we have, but I think it is really important for us to not ignore that cancer is not for the old.
No, not at all. Yeah.
And I know a lot of the awareness you do is into universities and schools. And that is really important. And I think it's amazing what you do. And I love the way that you make it fun. So on that note, Toby, if you're going to follow him on Instagram, is Toby Talks Bollocks, at Toby Talks Bollocks. And another thing is back in September, not long ago, depends how quickly you listen to this, we had the amazing walk through London, and a Monopoly walk, several dozen of us going through with bottlecks around our neck, creating this awareness, which was very exciting. And also, just on that, Toby has been lucky to get through into being able to run the London Marathon in March 25. Is it March or April? April 25.
April.
And so you can look out for him, hopefully on television. And if you're there in person, cheer him. He'll be having some amazing construction of testicles around you, won't you?
My two great loves, Penny, running and testicles. I've managed to finally conjoin the two. So yeah, I should be quite recognizable on TV. So I'm hoping to gain lots of awareness from it. That'd be brilliant.
Now, before we get on to sort of some of your amazing, inspiring leadership style, but also the way that companies can consider charities in their organization and the amazing impact it can make on an organization when you do have charities involved. Can we cover some of the symptoms when you're creating awareness? Because I think probably people's ears are pricked up. They may have young children themselves maybe in their 20s. What are some of the symptoms that people should look out for?
So if we're talking testicular, we're advocating regular checks, monthly checks. So hot bath or shower, check everything. In fact, I've got a pair, Penny. Shall I just do this? Not for the listeners, but so I always have a spare pair with me.
My goodness, you've never shown me your bollocks before.
There you go. What a treat. Sorry for all the.
Don't worry, anybody that's listening on Spotify, he's not actually shown me his own. There's a plastic pair in front of my eye.
We have an amazing supporter called Billy's Bullbags who creates these, and he sends out an awareness card of ours with every purchase. So and he created a one ball keyring for us.
So where do they get that? Where do they get that?
BillysBullbags.com, I assume. But they're amazing. But yes, hot bath or shower, everything hangs nice and loosey goosey. Having a feel, fingers and thumbs, about 30 seconds to a minute on each testicle. One can often hang lower than the other. That's perfectly normal. It's just getting to know your normals. Like any part of your body, we just don't check very much because there's stigma around this and people are embarrassed. But do it in the private of your own home, in the shower or the bath, and you're looking for any lumps. So a lump the size of a pea can come up in about a month, and you want to make sure anything that's in one isn't in the other. That means there's something wrong. Cancer doesn't work symmetrically. So you're looking for anything abnormal, swelling. These are obviously a very large pair, but if yours are usually smaller than this and one swells up significantly, that means something's wrong. Heaviness, a real dragging feeling we often hear about, people feeling like every time they're standing up, walking around, there's a dragging sensation down there. And the testicle shouldn't be rock hard. So you're looking for a little bit of bounce. You don't want to squeeze it. Obviously, we know what that feels like. And just make sure you know what the epididymis is, the sperm cord, which often wraps around the testicle. That's normal, can feel a little bit tender, but again, it's just checking regularly so you know what's normal for you. And then when we talk about the ovarian, unfortunately, everything's internal, so vague symptoms, and we're just looking out for things like persistent peeing, feeling fullness, bloating, tiredness, and just anything really not normal for you, again, swelling. So the case is just looking outside of anything in your normal cycles, anything that can be easily explained, anything that's persistent, frequent, new or unusual, that needs to be checked out by a doctor, because unfortunately 60% of cases for ovarian cancer are caught at A&E. So, you know, and then you're looking at vague symptoms like night sweats, chronic fatigue, sudden change in bowel habits, and just pain anywhere in the body, like lower back or in the abdomen. We just need to be making sure we're vigilant, knowing what's normal for us, and not feeling like you're wasting anybody's time by going to the doctors and perhaps asking for a second opinion if you're not happy.
Yeah, that's amazing. Toby, can you bring those bollocks to the next BIP lunch?
Of course I can, Penny. I
show
thought you'd
everybody.
never ask.
I know. Well, I just thought that if you were going to do a demonstration, it meant you would have had to stand on the table. So I'm quite happy that you've got
And you can see when we talk about humour, obviously, if you pull those out at a school and you
Yeah,
have the head teacher or the PE teacher next to you, the kids are all laughing. It's a
yeah,
great way to break the ice.
yeah,
It's brilliant. So we walk around the streets in them. We
yeah.
take them to festivals. These ones have glitter all over them because silly things we've done at festivals with them. They're a brilliant icebreaker.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And my mum actually passed away from ovarian cancer. She was a lot older, but yeah, so yeah, I think it's great that you talk about both, and which is and there was that famous girl from Big Brother, wasn't it? Wasn't it ovarian cancer that she
That was cervical. So we saw a big increase in cervical
cervical, that was it.
smears happening, but it's dropped back off again,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
Jade, wasn't it? I think
Jade Goody.
Jade Goody. So thank you for that. And I'm
Welcome.
really hoping that anybody that's listened to this has raised their awareness of this and will talk to their children, will check themselves. So thank you for that. So now moving on to business matters.
Oh, yes.
So I want to do this in two ways. I think I'm really fascinated by the way how you run and lead your team. You are a brilliant guy and you motivate, and they all have this great sense of purpose. I want to talk about that, but I also want to link it to how what an impact it can have when organizations have a charity come in, whether they choose to have a charity day or they sponsor it for a year, you know, whatever it is, how they can do it. So let's start with how you feel, you know, how you create empowered workforces. And I know you've done that brilliantly with your team.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. I will preface by saying I think I'm in a bit of a privileged position by being a founder-led CEO, because I think there is a difference, and I see and I hear and I understand the difficulties a lot of people have in the sectors. But so I think I've been very lucky, and I have an amazing board of trustees. I should say that for anyone in the sector listening. So what I say, I can only obviously speak to my own experience, but we had a really tough pandemic, as a lot of people did. So it was just me prior to the pandemic, and we managed to raise just enough funds to hire someone who has been absolutely incredible for us and very transformative. And we've been on a bit of a growth period since. So we've gone from pre-pandemic 1 to January, there'll be 10 of us. So quite a nice little growth period. And what we did during that was we recognized what people wanted when we were hiring. So the main things for us would be flexible and remote working, even outside the pandemic. So offering those as a starting block. We're not located anywhere. We have staff dotted all around the country working for us. And a big part of having this flexible remote work, for starters, we're seeing people coming from the corporate sector because they want a better lifestyle balance. They're getting burnt out. getting completely just disengaged with the work they're doing. You know, a lot of our interviews, people are talking about wanting to make an impact, wanting to have purpose in what they're doing for a third of their life. Which the charity sector offers. What it doesn't offer is a lot of pay. I'll be honest, the charity sector is lower paid than corporate. Everyone knows that, but we do what we do because we have a need to have that purpose, to have that impact, or we've been directly affected by it. So what we've done always is offer those two things up front, and there is real value in people not having to go in office. The younger generation especially do not value having to travel, wasting all that time, sitting in a cubicle, sitting in an office. Productivity is no better in an office than it is outside of an office. And you see this in a lot of big companies haven't changed to fully back in the office for that reason. You know, 4-day working week is evidence of that. So for us, it's always been about values. And I know this resonates with you because it's why I'm part of the BIP community, is it's values first. Everything we've ever done has been living our values and putting that at the forefront of everything. And that goes through the hiring process, you know, all of our job adverts, mission or vision, mission, culture, values. If this resonates with you, then apply. You know, that's our first gatekeeper. We don't want people that don't believe in our mission, that don't connect with our values, because part of our values is trust. So we have to trust these people once we've hired them to do their job and be excellent at them. There's a lot of trust that comes with remote and flexible working, you know, but that goes all the way through. So that is through the recruitment process. We talk about it at the interviews, you know, the induction, it's right up there when we're talking about inducting people. We've got these little booklets with them, which have our values, our mission, our vision, our culture, and our strategy in it. You know, it's just there. We're front and center. All of our main documents have them on them. When we're having important meetings, they're at the forefront. They're the first thing we talk about. And that's how we sort of negate that. We're not around each other constantly, but here are the constant reminders of what the most important things are. And I think the main one is just when you set a value, live it. Don't have it as a piece of paper. You know, it's very easy to write values. It's very hard to live your values. So another thing I know you talk about a lot, burnout. I've burnt out 2 times in my life, being the sole person running a charity. And I ended up with major kidney infections, you know, prostate issues at like 29 because I was so unwell. My body was falling apart. Like I needed weeks and weeks to recover from overworking, you know, 100-hour working weeks, too much stress, all of these things that are terrible for your health. And as a cancer charity, we really should be putting people's health first. We can't be stressing them out. So a big part of our culture is just empowering our staff to say no. Like it's not that complicated. I don't feel like it's complicated. When I sit in interviews and I hear horror stories of what people have been through, I'm just like, I don't understand this. I want my staff to be brilliant when they're working for me. And quite frankly, I couldn't care less if they don't think about this business when I'm not paying them, even though we're a charity. But I need them to be giving me 100% in working hours. And I say this to them all the time. Ignore my calls. Like I like leaving voice notes. I love having all the staff having work phones because they can turn them off. Not all of them do, but I'm like, turn them off, ignore them. I don't need responses. If you're not in, if I can't get the information from you, then I haven't managed you well enough to set the expectations or communicated with you what I need. It's a me problem, not a you problem. You know, you should never expect your staff to care as much as you do, even in a charity. And I understand that. I want them to switch off. I want them to recoup. I want them to live their best lives outside of the charity and celebrate that. And then come into work feeling refreshed and empowered and advocated for, that they can say no to things. And that means saying no to opportunities sometimes. You know, some of our staff are expected to do stuff in the evenings, community fundraising, relationship management, networking, going to events. Okay, well, when you book that in, you book your toil immediately. So I know that you're not working too much. And if that means you're off for 2 days next week, well, I've okayed you being at that event. That's fine. You know, I don't expect anyone to be working. And I try and live that. I'm probably the worst at it, but I try and live that as well. The staff have a go at me if I'm messaging out of hours. And it might be a case of, actually, I stopped and picked up my kids. So actually, I'm just catching up this evening. So I'm not overworking. But I try and communicate that so they know I'm not sitting there slaving away at 9 o'clock at night. Because if you do it as a leader, they feel, oh, should I be doing this? And it's saying no to opportunities as well. Like, guys, we've had this great opportunity come in, but I can't do it because it's my daughter's birthday. None of us can do it. Fine, opportunity gone, and that's unfortunate, but you're not giving up family time for that. And it's just these little things that I think make all the difference. Mental health days, Penny.
Yeah.
Like, we put it on our job adverts. That's a benefit, and we mean it. We don't just say you can have a mental health day because no one's going to take it. The point of a manager is to listen to what's going on in people's lives when you're checking in with them and force them to take a mental health day. I've done it to several of my staff.
Yeah.
You know, things are really tough, nothing to do with work. Book in a day when you or your partner or your friends can go and take a spa day or do whatever you want, and book it off. I'm telling you to book it off. I'm not putting the ball in your court because you're never going to take a mental health day. I'm telling you to take a mental health day, put it in your calendar and let me know when you've done it so I know you've done it. And then someone actually feels like, oh, I can switch off with no expectation. There's no mind games going on here. And I just think it's all those little things that add up. Like I said, I'm lucky to have a great board of trustees. Our strategy, I'll read it to you, as a charity is: let the community lead us, focus on the cause, less red tape, be human and laugh. That's our strategy, just for everything that we do.
Nice.
You know, and part of that being human leads into putting the people first. I say to all the team, you are the most important thing. Without you, nothing gets done. Because I've done this, I've burnt out and nothing got done for 2 months. So what happens if you're burnt out, or if you're at 50% capacity, but you're still in? Focus on the outcomes, not the output. I don't need you slaving away. I need you to go, I'm going to deliver this, 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 and this, and then do it in your own way. Have that trust to do it. So
what's really nice is I know that, you know, large companies might be under pressure, or they might be, they want to do it. They can do it. They can do it, you know, provide these. Very unusual in a smaller organization to hear this being done, which I think is it's absolutely tremendous to do that. It reminded me that when Hannah was little, she's summer works at a very fast pace and very intensely, and then gets exhausted. And when she was about, I think she was just gone to senior school, about 11, I said to her, do you know, I noticed that she would every so often say she was unwell and she'd stay in bed, but I didn't think she was unwell. And I'd say to her, do you know, you don't have to be unwell to have a day off school. And she looked at me and she said, well, what do you mean? And I said, you don't. I don't want you manifesting an illness to get a day off.
Yeah.
And she never abused it, but when she was just exhausted, needed a bit of time in a bedroom on her own, no noise, she got it. And I think it's really, really important. So I love the fact that you do that. I love the fact you provide work phones for your team as well. Actually, I think that's really good. And through from the recruitment and induction, absolutely fantastic. Now, I know one of the sort of human needs we all have is to never feel stuck, to always feel that we're in a company that's innovating and ideating, doing exciting things. And that definitely comes across with you guys. How do you achieve that whilst doing business as usual?
I think, again, it's your strategies. Living your strategy is just as important as living your values. And that co-creation space, you know, let the community lead us, for us means co-creating. So it is literally just putting it at the forefront of what we're doing. So making innovation, making listening to our community an important part of everything that we do. And actually, when we're thinking about creating a service or creating a project, going, okay, part of the process is, how do we find out if this is actually worthwhile, and talking to it. So it's one of those ones, if you find time for things you prioritize, and it's just living that in a way that we can constantly co-create. Like, the worst thing a charity can do is just tell people what they need. You know, a job, as I see a charity, is you exist because there is a need, and therefore you need to fulfill that need. Well, that need is fluid depending on technology, politics, societal things that can impact things. Well, then you need to talk to your community to find out how you can continue to fulfill that need. Whether that means getting rid of a service, or whether that means scaling down a service, or whether that means completely putting your eggs in a different service because everyone's telling you they need that service in that space. But you can't do that without co-creation. So from the community up to the staff, to the board of trustees having our community on it, I feel very, very privileged that we have this voice running throughout everything that we do. You know, it's and we're quite lucky in the sector. There are funders who push this really hard. You know, National Lottery have been absolutely brilliant. There's a real push for funders to be doing catalyst projects. You know, those innovative ideas where you go, oh, we can't find the funds in core costs, but actually there are great funders out there that just like, give us your strange ideas. Like, we will fund the first year of it, we'll fund this part of it. You know, and I think we're really lucky that we fall into a space where we're quite fundable. And then again, in the sector, in our subsector of the sector, the charity sector, we are very lucky because some of the key massive players are all about partnerships and co-creation. So Macmillan are a brilliant example of grant giving to smaller organisations. You know, feeds into their strategic goals. They get patient voice, they get patient advocacy, they hear what's on the ground. It helps them co-create, but us as smaller organisations get to co-create with them. And I love that. I think we're very lucky. But
yeah, I didn't know Macmillan did that sort of thing. That's really interesting. That is, and I've seen how you go to the community, because I know I've seen BIP 100 members, you know, get really behind you. And in fact, the walking bollocks thing that we did in September around London, I think that came from one of the members, the ideas, and it was wonderful the way you said, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, so you've got fundraising, you've got awareness drivers, you've got service delivery, and then things like we've launched our podcast. That was created with our community because they came to us and said, there is a need for a podcast. We want to have a bigger voice. We want to hear from other people. And we worked with them to work out the best medium, turned out being a podcast. And we've launched that. And we got Macmillan funding for it. You know, it's a great example of how this all comes together. But we would never have launched a podcast unless we were talking to our community and going, what do you want? What is missing? How can we holistically help you as a human, not just a patient? Because I think they're very different things.
So in terms of in practice with what you do, you're connecting with your customers, which all the time, I think you're calling them your community, aren't you, effectively?
Yeah, community or beneficiaries if it's direct to supporting someone.
And those people, just to clarify, are, and I know we said it at the top of the show, but they're families who have got in touch and said we need some support, schools for awareness.
Yep. So yeah, direct individuals, families, schools, and I suppose corporates as well are the main ones in different areas, obviously, support awareness and education. So yeah, there's a
thing, because that naturalness of what you've said, but when you're talking to a lot of business owners, they're only thinking of suppliers and customers. They very rarely are thinking out the box at all these other people. And yes, it seems so natural to you to think of all this sort of opportunities for awareness and partnering.
Yeah, it feels a bit shotgun sometimes. I often say to my trustees, it might be nice to work in like just sales of one thing, you know, but you could be a scalpel. Everything we do is it's not shotgun, but awareness is just broad strokes, isn't it? There are opportunities everywhere. Influencers, individual organizations, schools, colleges, events, corporates. The list is endless, you know. All our job is to get our key messages to every audience in the UK. And then you go into the sub silos, you know, you've got different types of audiences, different types of events, different types of influencers reaching different audiences across the UK. And it's sort of a endless rabbit hole that we need to try and trickle down into.
Yeah. Well, and I'm hoping lots of people share this podcast if they listen to it as well, to create that awareness as well. So as we sort of close here, I was thinking about, so when Vicky died, she was 29, my niece, and you know, it's so tragic, you know, at so many levels. I'll always remember my promise to her, and the gift that she gave me was that I would never complain about getting old, ever in my life. And so many people, as they get older, say, oh, I mean, my parents hated getting older, and it really defined them, and it made them a little bit, I don't think people can, you know, they say, oh, yeah, it's my 60th. And you think, you lucky thing, you've lived to 60, you know, that was her gift. life would have been very different for you if Robin hadn't died, and it would have been a beautiful life having your brother. But do you feel that it's given you a gift? Do you feel that he's left a legacy in you that's really enhanced your life?
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, Rob's death gave me purpose, and I never really had that before. I was, I suppose you'd say, just sort of drifting a little bit. You know, what do people crave? It's purpose and impact, isn't it? In whatever format, and that doesn't need to be grand things. That just, as long as it sits with who you are, you know, having that drive, having that purpose, having that reason for getting up is absolutely amazing. And especially pre-kids, this has been my main driver for pushing me forwards. And you know, I think I started this as not as a grief reaction. I make that clear. My dad at the very, very beginning said, we are creating something because there's a need and it's going to outlast us. That was our starting point for the charity. So, but I poured my grief into it. It was my catharsis. And actually now I think, well, not now, but over the years, that has gone from being cathartic to actually just, I love building the charity. I love learning constantly. I love innovating. I love the creativity. I love the freedom of what it provides me. And the fact that that still is intrinsically linked to that core of helping other people just turns out from a little flicker into like a sun for me. You know, it's just radiating light. I love it. It's every time I get up, I send an email. I'm like, that could help someone. That's brilliant. Okay, I do a silly social media. That could help someone. That's brilliant. You know, I help the staff with something, or they bring something to me and it's a brilliant idea. And I'm like, this is so cool. My head of ops today said something that blew my mind. And I was like, I'm genuinely getting emotional because the way you phrased that is how I should have thought of it, which means this is so much bigger than me now. It's so much bigger than Rob. And that touches me in a way that makes me like, yeah, really emotional, because I'm just like, this is transcend. This is what we wanted. I want to one day step out of this and see it blossom. Right now, I think I'm still the right person to forward, but you know, I'm very conscious of founder syndrome, and yeah, but there are people that come in and just get it and they love it and they see the value, they see the impact, and they go, I can make this better. I'm a big believer. One thing I haven't brought up, no egos. I love being the
One of
stupid.
the things I wanted to say,
Mm,
everything that you've said and every part of you when I meet you, is that you've managed to, you use the word transcend everything into having no ego at all around this. That, you know, we all need a bit of ego to drive us,
mm.
but you know, you are so generous with your praise of everyone and what the purpose is. It is beautiful to talk to someone where you can just see how solid and you're in flow. You're
Well,
absolutely in flow.
yeah,
As we love to talk about. So Toby, it's been beautiful talking to you. I'm so proud to know you. I'm so proud that you decided to become a BIP 100 member and bring your talent, your personality, your character to us. And thank you very much. And thank you for listening in. Now, please do consider, I know we're always thinking about charities. Just today, I had to go for an appointment, and as I was coming out the NHS, they asked me to give £1 a week for Frimley Health, for them to be able to do entertainment. And we can give small amounts, and we can decide for a charity to be our main charity. But I think this one touches us all. And so please remember the Robin Cancer Charity. Follow Toby on Toby Talks Bollocks. Maybe look out for the videos that we will be sharing, if you haven't seen them already, about our walk and more information about that. And also connect with Toby on LinkedIn, Toby Freeman, if you feel there's something you've gathered here that you would like to talk further about. And of course, Thomas or I can connect you with Toby. Thank you so much, Toby. It's
well, thank you.
a huge amount to me to have you on the podcast. Thank you very much.
Really appreciate it. Thank you. And thank you for everyone listening. That's it's always nice when people stick around to the end, and it's just, yeah, pleasure to be able to share some thoughts. So I really appreciate it. Thank you, Penny.
And now go and feel your testicles.